Hello and welcome to our number talk. Today we are looking at the expression 16 times 18. What we do in a number talk is we use mental math. No paper, no pencil to try to figure this out. And then we look at all the different ways we could have used to solve this expression. So let's do that first. Before we go any further, go ahead and pause the video. Figure out what 16 times 18 is without using any paper or pencil. When you have your answer, let's come back together and figure it out together. So this is kind of a tough one. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at a few different properties of operations. We're going to start with our distributive property. And the distributive property lets us break apart one of our factors into addends that make it a little bit easier for us to multiply. So in this case, we're going to take our 16 times our 18, and we're just going to reimagine that 18. And we're going to multiply that by 9 plus 9. I just took that factor of 18 and I broke it up into a 9 plus 9. And what the distributive property lets me do is take that 16 and then multiply it by those 9s. So I've got 16 times 9, which we still have to do a little mental math to figure this out. 9 times 10 is 90. 9 times 6 is 54. So 90 and 54, that's going to get me 144. And then basically I'm just going to double that because I've got another 16 times 9. So that's going to be another 144. So once I get the 144s, that's pretty easy. That's going to bring it out to a 288. Hopefully that's the answer you got. Now there's another way we could have done that. Instead of breaking up in 9 to 9, you might have found it a little bit easier to take that 18 and to break it apart into a 10 and an 8. Think of it like expanded form. 10 plus 8. Still going to do the same thing of distributing out. So 16 times 10, that's super easy because it's just 16 with a 0. Now we're going to have to do a little bit of work with this 16 times 8. So I've got 10 times 8 is 80, 6 times 8 is 48. So put those together, 80 and 48, 128. But I'm still going to come back to my 288. That stays the same. Now we could also keep the 18 together and simply break apart that 16. So let's see what we have here. 16 times 18. And let's just take our 18 and our 16 and cut it in half. 8 and 8. So we're going to distribute out that 18 and multiply it by both addends to get our partial products. So I've got 8 times this 18. And so a little bit of work here again. 8 times 10 is 80. 8 times 8 is 64. 80 and 64. Well, that's going to get us up to our 144, which we've seen a few times here. And 8 times 18 is going to get you another 144. So that's going to get you 288 again. And then finally, I bet you saw this coming. We could have taken our 16 and we could have used the distributive property to break it apart using place value. And so instead of 8 and 8, let's do 10 plus 6. And let's multiply those both by 18 and add up those partial products. So 10 times 18. So that's going to get me 180. So that's pretty easy. Then I've got my 6 times my 18. So I have to do a little bit of work there. 6 times 18. So 6 times 10 is 60, 6 times 8 is 48. Add those two together, I'm going to get my 108. And I've got 180 and 108. Guess what I'm going to end up at? Same answer, 288. Now, if you don't want to use the distributive property, we can do some doubling and halving, because that is sometimes an easier way to mentally multiply numbers. So what this means is we're going to take one of our factors and we're going to double it. So let's take our 16 and let's double it here. And that is going to get us 32. So that's why I've got two 16s. So if I double one of these, in order to keep a balanced expression, what I need to do is I need to go ahead and take the other factor and cut it in half. So that's why I've got my 18. And I've got this box of 9 over here grayed out. I'm going to get rid of it. So I took one factor, doubled it. So I'm going to do 32. Took the other factor, halved it, so I'm going to do 9. 32 times 9 is the same as 16 times 18. So 9 times 30 is 270. 9 times 2 is 18. And that's going to get you your 288. You can also double and halve the other way since both factors are even. So instead of taking our 18 and cutting in half, let's take our 18 and let's double it. So we're going to double our 18. That's going to be 36. That's why I've got two of them. And we are going to take our 16, and instead of doubling it, we're going to cut it in half. So that's why I've got my 8. And I've got down here, I'm just going to cross off that bottom 8. So 8 times 36. So 8 times 30 is 240. 8 times 6 is 48. Add those together. You guessed it, 288. Now, if you don't want to double in half, you don't want to use the distributive property, you can also use the associative property. So the associative property, what it does is it lets us break apart one of our factors into two smaller factors. So I'm going to keep my 16. I'm going to reimagine my 18 as a 6 times 3. So 18 is really 6 times 3. So now I've got 3 factors. And when you have 3 or more factors, if you're dealing with addition, you can use the associative property with 3 or more add-ins. You can change the group. So instead of 6 groups of 3, which is what 18 is, I want to just shift the parentheses here. So you notice I'm keeping the same 3 factors, 16, 6, and 3, but I just want to multiply the 16 and the 6 first, rather than the 6 and the 3 first. Now, I don't want 16 groups of 6. That would be crazy. I'd rather have 6 groups of 16. That's going to be a little bit easier for me. That's where this commutative property comes in. That's the order property, and lets me just shift the order. 6 times 16, 16 times 6, same thing. And then I want to use the commutative property one more time. I want 3 groups of 6 groups of 16. So you notice we can just rearrange these factors all the way we want to. So that's what I've got here. I've got 6 groups of 16. I've got right here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 groups of 16. So that's going to give me 96. And as you can see, I've got 3 groups of 6 groups of 16. So I'm just going to skip count by 96s. 192, 288. So that might be a little bit easier for some people. And then we can use the associative property. Let's keep our 18 together. Let's break up our 16 and do a 4 by 4. And we're going to use the associative property again to just kind of shift the parentheses. I want to do this 4 times 18 first. I don't need the commutative property because I kind of like the order. So I've got 4 groups of 18. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's going to get me 72. 4 groups of 18 is 72. And as you can see, I've got 4 groups. There's my other 4. 4 groups of 4 groups of 18. And that's just going to let me skip count by my 72. So I've got 72, 144, 216, and 288. So if you found another way, that is great. Go ahead and leave that as a comment on the video. Teachers, if you would like a copy of this slide deck for your own use in the classroom, you can find it on my website at 5minutemath.net.